My name is Homi Karas. I'm the Deputy Director here at the Global Economy and Development Program at Brookings, and it's a great pleasure for me to welcome all of you here for this forum on the International Volunteer Service and the 2030 Development Agenda. So, at least for me, the 2030 Development Agenda is something very special. I spent a long portion of time, just over a year, commuting up and down to New York, trying to work with the UN in putting this together. And as we did this work, three things became quite apparent about the things we needed to improve on compared to the Millennium Development Goals experience. So the first of those three things is scale. We are talking about an agenda that literally is designed to have an impact on hundreds of millions of people. You cannot reach hundreds of millions of people if you don't in turn have an army of millions of people trying to reach and influence them. So very big questions about how does one actually get sufficient scale to be able to do the kind of capacity building, the support, the technical assistance that's really required if we're truly going to be the generation that ends poverty in our lifetime. The second big issue that emerged is that during the period of the Millennium Development Goals, it was quite clear that political awareness waxed and waned over time. It was very difficult to take this agenda and keep it on the forefront of leaders and to maintain the political momentum over long periods of time. There were always distractions. There was always a movement to take on the next urgent priority. So the UN has designed a whole number of events, high-level political forums, and other kinds of things to try to capture the attention of political leaders in a sustained fashion over the long run. But it's very hard to do that just at the top. You also, in order to get political leaders' attention, they have to believe that this is something that people actually care about, that it really reflects the passions of the population. And one of the shortcomings of the Millennium Development Goals were how few people actually knew anything about it. Polls in America suggested that less than 5% of people actually knew that there were Millennium Development Goals. Less than 2% of people could name a single development goal. We really hope that with the Sustainable Development Goals, those numbers will be completely reversed. That requires a whole army of people who understand what these are, who are active in trying to make it happen and bring that passion back domestically as well as in terms of their contributions abroad. And then the third thing that was very clear with the Millennium Development Goals was to be able to actually implement such a comprehensive agenda. You really need partnerships. This is no longer an agenda that can be done simply by a government or through an intergovernmental negotiations and agreement. It's something that requires partnerships with citizens at every level and in every activity. So I think that these are three things that the Service Year Alliance, that volunteerism really does bring to the table. It brings to the table the ability to scale, the ability to build political awareness, and the ability to have partnerships. So to reflect on the partnerships, today I'd like to acknowledge all of the hosts and co-hosts of this event along with Brookings, and starting with the Building Bridges Coalition. David Caprera, Lex Riefel have done enormous work in pulling this event today, and I'd like to acknowledge them. Thank you. But in addition, we also have the Center for Social Development at Washington University in St. Louis, Civic Enterprises, Cross-Cultural Solutions, Global Peace Foundation, IBM, the National Peace Corps Association, Partners of the Americas, Repair the World, Service Year Alliance, Tisch College of Civic Life at Tufts University, and the Volunteers Economic Growth Alliance. So what you can see is essentially a very broad coalition of organizations all working in this same space, all trying to come together. I think this is just wonderful. It's wonderful to see everybody here. It's wonderful to see the kind of energy, and it's in particular wonderful to have people who are willing to devote their time and energy, such as our keynote speaker, General Stanley McChrystal. General McChrystal serves as the chairman and the co-founder of Service Year Alliance. It was formerly the Franklin project of the Aspen Institute. You will know him as a four-star general. He retired in 2010 after serving 34 years in the United States Armed Forces, including as leader of the Joint Special Operations Command from 2003 to 2008. From 2009 to 2010, he was commander of the international forces in Afghanistan, and after retirement, he's formed the McChrystal Group and authored the New York Times bestseller, Teams of Teams. Our keynote speaker is going to be General Stanley McChrystal. He will speak immediately after Ahmed Al-Andawi. Ahmed Al-Andawi is the United Nations envoy on youth. As I said before, youth is really the purpose of Agenda 2030. When people, ask, well, why are we setting these long-term goals through to 2030? The answer is really that we want to build a better world for young people, a better world in which everybody can have an opportunity to have a reasonably prosperous life. And that means involving youth, not just as the object of what we want to do, but as active participants. So we're delighted to have the youth envoy, Ahmed Al-Andawi, here with us today. He will say a few words of welcome on behalf of the United Nations, and then we'll turn over to General Stanley McChrystal for his keynote address. Thank you very much.
Just in time, right? Good morning, everybody. So Hamid Karas, Deputy Director of Global Economy and Development here at Brookings, and also General Stanley McChrystal. I trust that some of the colleagues are here also from UNV and others. So great to be in DC, and thank you very much for bringing us together on this very important topic. And thanks also for offering me the chance to speak and convey the greetings of the Secretary General, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, to all of you. Indeed, this conversation around the Agenda 2030 for sustainable development and the importance of volunteerism and engaging youth is critical. I'm going to say only one thing from my recent visit to India. And any Indians in the room? It's impossible. You can't be in a room without Indians. It just didn't happen. Well, in India alone, 800 million people under the age of 35. 800 million. And I argue to say that what India is going to be for the Sustainable Development Goals is what China used to be in the MDGs. One country can make or break the SDGs. And one segment of population in that country, young people there, are going to make or break the SDGs globally. So better get it right there, in particular in countries like India and the Global South, where almost 90% of young people today, they live in the Global South. In countries who are struggling to develop their economies and to offer jobs for young people. That's why I believe when it comes to leaving no one behind, which we have been repeating for 15 years almost, I think leaving no one behind in the Sustainable Development Goals is not going to be about reaching out to everyone and delivering services to everyone. Reaching and leaving no one behind is going to mean only one thing. If we to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we have to make sure that everybody be part of the solution and that young people and this massive generation of youth will be part of achieving these goals, not only being at the beneficiary end of these goals. That's why I think the work of the United Nations volunteers, the United Nations General Assembly resolution, volunteerism, and different initiatives from the massive community of working volunteering is going to be extremely important to be synchronized with the broader development efforts. We know the just recent examples of Ebola and other crises where volunteers were at the forefront of being respondents. We know that in context of peace and security, situation down in Syria and other places, of volunteers who are risking their lives, and usually they are not featured well. That's why I would say the Security Council Resolution 2250 on youth, peace, and security is a turning point when it comes to the way we engage with young people globally, to recognize their role for who they are as peace builders, not troublemakers, and those who are on the ground risking their lives for opportunities. And as you rightly said, not only as objects, but as equal partners in the ground who can deliver and support the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals. Last note about the Sustainable Development Goals, and trust you all followed the process. It's fair to say that in the 3 years negotiation process that led us to September 2015 with the Sustainable Development Goals, young people have participated in so many different ways, including my word survey, which was led by volunteers. Around 8 million people casted their votes in the word they want. And many young volunteers around the world who took basically this survey offline, and they made sure that many people around the world have a say in setting the new Sustainable Development Goals. So we do have a new agenda that would require a collective effort. And as my good friend and colleague Richard Dectus always says, volunteering is not a new thing or old thing. It's been always a thing that is there. And different cultures relate in so many different ways, and the only one for us to unleash and unlock the power of 1.8 billion young person is to offer them opportunities. And at the end of the day, whether we are successful in offering them opportunities and bringing them on board or not will define not only the course of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, but also the question of peace and security on this planet. That's the word we have. There are many things that we cannot predict. We cannot predict the growth in the global economy, we cannot predict which countries will fail, or we cannot predict maybe in the next 15 years what diseases will break and what challenges we will face in so many parts of the world. But there's a very simple fact that we can predict. The demographic facts in this world. Who live on this planet today? Half of the world's population under 25 years of age. A continent like Africa will only have more young people over the next 15 years. So while there are so many variables that we cannot predict, there's one thing we can get right. It's agenda for the people and for the planet, for peace and prosperity. And for all of that, we have to remember who is joining us in this ride, on this planet Earth. And who's joining us is a very young population who are thirsty for opportunities, thirsty for participation. And if we don't offer them these opportunities, not only will not achieve the goals, but also we have to be bombarded with all the consequences of leaving this massive generation of young people not being fully utilizing their true potential. So that's what is at stake. I just want to share these few words with you because I believe that you are all experts in this community of organization working and volunteering. But I have just to send this reminder that what we have today is an unprecedented challenge, unprecedented opportunity, an unprecedented young planet that is full of young people eager for participation opportunities. And you are probably the only ones who could advise on how to get young people on board for the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before bringing General McChrystal up to the stage, let me say that part of the objective here is to build awareness, and I forgot to mention that those of you who would like to tweet can tweet using the hashtag #BBCService10. General McChrystal, the floor is yours.
Late in his career, General George Washington once stood up to address his officers and sort of sheepishly had to pull out a set of eyeglasses, saying that he had gone half blind in the service of his country. I am proof that comic books will do the same thing to you. but please bear with me. I'm going to take you back 29 years. 29 years ago, I was a major in the U.S. Army Rangers, and to give you a context of where that point in your career is, been in the Army about 11 years as an officer. That's long enough where it's no longer different or interesting, and yet you've got miles to go before you hit that magic point where you think you can fix it. And so you're in the middle part of this career when it's just a lot of hard work, and you tend to get a little bit cynical at times with your peers. And so we were going to do a change of command for the Ranger Battalion I was in. And the outgoing commander was leaving, a new commander was coming in, and it was a late winter afternoon in Georgia, but it was rainy and cold. And the outgoing commander had the chance to put the ceremony inside because families and dignitaries would come to it. But sort of in a point of pride and machismo, he said, no, we're going to go outside. And the incoming guy didn't want to be the person who was weak, so he said, absolutely, we'll go outside. Well, both of those guys were inside because they were with the dignitaries, and I'm out in the formation with 600 other Rangers, and because it's the Army, you line up about an hour early, and you stand on the parade field, and you wait. And it started to rain a little bit harder, and you wait. And you wait in parade rest. And we weren't allowed to wear rain gear because we're Rangers, and we're hard. And so we're out there for about an hour just freezing, and the people who came to watch it were inside a building about 150 meters in front of us, and they would come out at the last moment. But after about 20 minutes of us out there, a lone individual walked out of the building, and the individual walked out to where some seating was in front of the formation in the rain, and he sat down. And he just sat there as he got rained on. And a young soldier was dispatched from the building with an umbrella and ran out there and opened this umbrella and proceeded to hold it over him. And one look from the sitting man said, nope, son, go back. And it was General Gary Luck, and he was our senior commander. And he came out, and for about the next 40 minutes, he sat in the rain with a connection between 600 Rangers standing in front of him. And what he was doing was sharing the hardship. What he was doing was just quietly and simply being part of us. Now, the interesting thing about it, I don't think he did it because he was in the room and he said, wow, this is a great leadership moment. I can go out and demonstrate to everybody what a great leader I am. I think he walked out because that was his instinct. That was what he had been trained to do. That was what naturally happened. He just did it. I got up this morning. We had a farewell party last night for one of our Service Year Alliance leaders, extraordinary individual, and his wife and young son, and they left, and we stayed up for a while, late for me, socializing with them. And I got up this morning about 4:30, went into our little bathroom so I don't wake my wife, and I pulled out my PT clothes, my shorts, my shoes, shirt, laced them up, went outside and ran for about an hour. I didn't do it because I said, boy, it's a great idea to get up and run this morning. I didn't do it because I wanted to tell you I'd done it. I did it because I do it every day. I don't think about it. But when I go in to get my PT clothes, I pull a drawer open and all my PT shorts are folded in exactly the same spot. And all my shirts are folded in exactly the same spot. And I don't do that because I'm smart. I do that because I was taught to do that when I first went to West Point, and it has now become a habit. I think habits are very powerful. I think you're here today not because you had to make a big conscious decision to be part of an idea as big as what this represents, not because there are values here that you strongly believe in, although both of those are true. I think most of us are here because it's your habit to be a part of something that matters. When something important comes and something that you can be a part of becomes an opportunity, it's your habit to raise your hand. It's your habit to make the trip. It's your habit to volunteer. And I think that's extraordinarily important. I think habits really are what culture is all about. We talk about culture in the workplace, we got culture in society. Really, cultures are about what societies decide works for them and then what people do, and they're extraordinarily powerful. And if it is our culture to do something, it's very hard to not do that. Now, what I've been honored to be a part of for the last few years is trying to make it our culture to serve. Trying to make it our culture to serve others. And we can make logical arguments of why we should do this. We can give data. We can give testimony. But I think nothing is quite so powerful as giving opportunity to develop habits. I talk about when I went to West Point and I was kind of a wild young man. I still fold my underwear in my drawer. There's probably no purpose to it, but I do a lot of other things I wouldn't do because I was given the opportunity to develop habits, some of which have been very helpful through life. I think one of the things we haven't done, really around the world, but particularly in the United States, is support giving opportunities for young people to develop the habit of service. Giving young people the experience to do something over time that then becomes ingrained in them. If you think about the things you learned in school or the things your parents taught you to do, whether it's playing the piano or cleaning your room or helping people at church or in society, in many cases, those were things you would not have chosen to do automatically, but over time, as you did them and saw the value and developed the habits, they became very, very important to you. So now the big idea that I'm a part of in the Service Year Alliance, what we represent is trying to move back into a culture where the expectation, the culture, the habit of service is provided to young people through an opportunity to do a year of funded full-time service. Now, we can all do lots of things, and many of them are very, very good, but I think nothing's quite so powerful as taking a chunk of your life and dedicating it full-time to service to others. And although that service to others has huge value, I would argue the service also has huge value to the individual. I think people finish that experience a different person. And more importantly, when enough people do it, I think we come out with a different society. Suddenly, it's the habit. It's the habit of service. It's the habit of volunteering. It's not a long, conscious decision. So the idea of creating a service year is a big idea. And there are lots of naysayers around who all nod, and I talk about this all the time, and I talk about the power of a service year, and many people will smile and go, that's a nice idea. And in their mind, they're thinking, yeah, it's too dark, too high, too dangerous, too expensive, too political, you name it. And I would argue, of course it's not, and if we can't take on ideas as fundamental, as valuable, as important as making citizenship and service to others a core part of our culture, then what can we do? If we're not doing that, what are we doing? And if we can't do that, why? But I'm convinced we can. When I sit in a room like this, the energy and the commitment of people who've long been committed to this is obvious. But now what we've got to do is we've got to make it everywhere. And that means we've got to roll the stone uphill. And like Sisyphus, it's going to roll back on us sometimes. And it's going to be a little bit frustrating, but it will get there because it's that important and it will make that big a difference. And I'm deeply honored and appreciative to be a small part of it. Thank you.